여기 11호차 응급 환자 발생했습니다.
사람 호흡은 어때요?
이게 숨을 쉬는데요. 발작이 이게 너무 심해요.
팀장님?
뭐야?
기장님 공격 사투예요!
2016's Train to Busan is one of the best zombie movies to come out in the past decade. Following a number of survivors on board a train during a virus outbreak in South Korea, the action in the film is kinetic and engrossing, despite much of it taking place in close quarters, and the movie makes sure that every death packs a punch due to the time invested in character development.
야 싸가지, 내 덕분에 네 딸내미 다시 만난 기분이 어때?
유치하게 벨소리가 그게 뭡니까?
벨소리 그게 뭐 어때서? 그 벨소리 어떻게 바꾼 거냐?
It's a pretty bleak movie, but it isn't nihilistic. In fact, it examines how selflessness is more likely to keep you alive than selfishness. The film starts with Seok Woo, a self-centered hedge fund manager for a shady bio company, deciding to take his daughter Soo-an to see her mother in Busan on her birthday. They hop aboard a train and sit amongst various other passengers, including a high school baseball team and their sole cheerleader, a pair of old sisters named In-jil and Jung-jil, the glorious Sang-hwa and his pregnant wife Seong-kyung, as well as the conniving COO Yong-suk. Unfortunately, a woman has been infected by a mysterious pathogen also boards the train. Pretty soon, all hell breaks loose as she starts infecting the other passengers, forcing everyone to fight for their survival. I've always wondered, would I survive the train to Busan, and if so, how? Statistically speaking, the answer is likely no. Without the kind of plot armor that protects Seok Woo for most of the film, I, like most of the characters, would probably not make it. But maybe if we follow the major events in the film, the obstacles our characters encounter, and the decisions they make along the way, we can improve our odds and figure out how to survive the train to Busan. The zombies in Train to Busan were the result of a leak at a biological factory in the South Korean countryside, later confirmed to have been a part of Seok Woo's company, YS Biotech. While there isn't precise information regarding the leak, it's clear that biological waste was a key feature in the outbreak.
아이 그 부재역이 아니고요. 요 앞에 그 바이오 단지에서 뭐가 찔끔 샜다고 이러네. 별거 아니에요. 좀 때도 그러더만.
The unnamed pathogen, which we'll call the Busan virus, is a deadly artificial mutagen that was supposed to be the centerpiece of YS Biotech's expansion into biosecurity markets, before quickly spiraling into an ecological disaster, the likes of which the world had never seen. The factory leak containing the mutagen contaminated the nearby water and began infecting the animals, before the virus was transferred to humans. The Busan virus spreads through bites and scratches from the infected that introduce contaminated blood or bodily fluids into a host. This then begins a process of irreversible contamination, with an active strain of the virus starting to induce a cytokine cascade, a potentially fatal immune reaction consisting of a positive feedback loop between cytokines and white blood cells, further exacerbated by the bacteria that resides in the mouths of zombies. When a person is bitten, an active strain of Busan will begin spreading throughout their bloodstream. It's here that the virus will begin to transform and induce a fatal cytokine storm, which causes fevers, aches, and fatigue. As the infection develops, the virus spreads throughout the brain, infecting neural structures and synapses. Finally, the adrenal glands hemorrhage as the brain shuts down. At this point, all brain activity ceases to exist, along with that of the major organs. The brain then reanimates the body in a moment signaled by convulsive seizures and uncontrollable twitching. After this, the reanimated corpses with limited functionality wake up impervious to pain and with an insatiable desire for flesh. What's most worrying is that they don't require sleep, water, or food to survive, yet they still maintain an unbounded level of hunger for human flesh. In the sequel, we even see a zombie that wakes up after being dormant for years. After the transformation, the infected start hunting down the uninfected with ferocious speed, agility, and a deeply troubling and often overwhelming mob mentality. Sight plays a huge role for the infected, and it's discovered throughout the course of the film that although they can't see in the dark, they seem to react to movement in their direct field of view. Luckily for us passengers, we've missed the brunt of the outbreak. The train also bypasses many stops along the way due to the spread of the infection, implying that numerous outbreaks are happening across the country simultaneously. We also see a strong police and military presence along the route, with news outlets covering the event showing mass chaos throughout the country. The safest place we can be right now is on this speeding bullet heading south. However, now that we're better acquainted with the gravity of the situation, we need to come up with a game plan. You need to stay alert and be aware of your surroundings. It's incredible how many characters at the beginning of Train to Busan completely missed the warning signs. The staff let random people onto the train, characters rubberneck during violent attacks, and they gloss over events like burning buildings in the distance. Seok-woo was especially guilty of all things, and he even falls asleep and lets his daughter wander around the train. COO Young-suk is the most dangerous person in the film. He's completely consumed by fear, and in his mania, encourages those around him to abandon reason and compassion in favor of acts of savagery motivated by self-preservation. This guy is a threat to everyone, and many of the characters unnecessarily die because of him, including our protagonist. So, we need to remove him from power and calm everybody down by suggesting a rational course of action. Now that you have control, contact the train conductor up front and suggest that the train head straight to Busan without making any stops before turning all the lights off. The biggest tip for survival is to know your enemy. These zombies are fast, but ultimately not too bright. They also have no sense of object permanence, as seen when a zombie forgets his own bloodlust after a coat gets thrown over its head while they're on top of a victim. You want to use this to your advantage. Have coats and blankets handy to throw over zombies for when they start to attack. Because sights and sounds trigger the zombies, wherever you are on the train, start quietly covering the windows with newspapers. We see the passengers do this early on, essentially preventing the infected from having a direct line of sight, which momentarily calmed them, causing them to haphazardly mill around the train car. My usual go-to is to stock up on supplies and equipment and find a secure location.
Excellent.
But the circumstances are slightly different here. Getting off the train will be a bad idea, so our objective is to survive the 1-hour train ride and make it to Busan, presumably the only safe place left in the country. Because of this, we have no choice but to go through people's luggage and salvage what we can, before methodically clearing the train of the infected as we made our way to the front, Snowpiercer style. One bite and you're pretty much gone, so you can't wear singlets or shorts, and if you want to move quickly, you don't want to be held back by skinny jeans or baggy clothing that's going to get caught on something. So find something comfortable that you can fight and run in. Long sleeves and pants are your safest bet. Wear a few layers and get crafty by taping magazines to your arms and legs to prevent bites and scratches, especially when going on the offensive. The same thing applies to feet. You're going to be on your feet a lot, you'll often have zombies on your heels, and absolutely cannot afford to slip or trip over. The next thing you need to do is secure the location. This is going to be extremely risky, and some people will likely die, but it's better than waiting helplessly for the infected to overwhelm you. Barricade the rear cart and put those that are unable to fight in the lavatories until the coast is clear. Then start opening the side doors between each cart and layering the steps with lubricants like oil. After taping layers of armor around your arms and legs, equip yourself with makeshift shields and weapons. The giant shield that Seok-woo uses proves to be very useful for keeping the zombies at bay, and the baseball team made out pretty well for a while by violently swinging baseball bats at zombie heads, so get your hands on their baseball bats and supply of tape as well. Next, we need to set up a 300-style strategic bottleneck standoff, with multiple rows of survivors in formation, armed with shields and weapons, holding the line behind the door. Emptying backpacks and wrapping them around one hand, while you arm the other with a bludgeoning tool, will do just fine. The idea is that they're merely a fortification to be used as a last resort, as the real plan is to use the stupidity of the zombies against them. First, we gotta have some risk takers climb outside the train and set up a position on the roof, ready to derail the cars behind us or create distractions that will lure the zombies towards them. We then need to string up phones above the open side doors, with strobe light effects activated and music playing, before we open the doors containing the undead using a rope. These zombies are really stupid, and like moths drawn to a flame, they will run at the source of light and sound, slip on the lubricated steps, and simply fall off the moving train, provided they can't see us and are unable to get past our fortifications. We then use the front three guys to deal with any stragglers by simply throwing coats and jackets over their heads, temporarily stunning them, before forcing them off the moving train. It might also be a good idea to have at least 2 or 3 rows of defensive guards with makeshift shields facing the rear entrance, protecting us from being surprised by a sneak attack.
뒤에 너. 네가 뒤에서 달려드는 놈들 있으면 막아.
And whatever you do, don't forget to use the security lock above the doors for added protection. We know that those that have been infected will turn within minutes, so if someone on the offensive at the front is infected, they need to get themselves off the train right away and take as many zombies out while they're doing so. Keep pushing forward, locking and barricading each car as you go, until the carriages ahead are completely clear. Once you reach the front with all the survivors, detach the rear cars immediately. Now that the train is finally free of infection, you need to be careful about the information you receive, as it might be dated. For example, Shiokwu was informed that Daejeong Station is safe so long as he heads east and avoids the main square, but this is no longer true by the time that they arrive. On that note, if something seems fishy, trust your instincts. When the train arrives at the station, no one is around. This should be a major red flag. Something probably isn't right if an entire train station is empty, so instead of getting off, use your phone to check if it's safe first. And if you sense something is off, tell the others. Communication is key. What the train conductor sees at the station will be enough to convince him to head straight to Busan without making any stops. From here, it should be smooth sailing. That is until you hit the blocked track at East Daegu Station. Now, instead of letting the conductor run off on his own to get a train and subsequently be killed by the actions of Young-suk, go with him as a group. Hold onto the shields and weapons and create a protective pocket around weaker passengers like Suwan and the elderly sisters. Once you reach the end of the line and see the tunnel ahead, make sure that those on the other end know that you're human. If Busan is a safe zone, you better believe its borders are going to be heavily guarded, with soldiers ready to shoot anyone that approaches. So you need to let the people on the other side know that you're coming, and most importantly, that you're still human. Suwan weeps and sings a song that she'd prepared for her father at school, and it's only after hearing her that a sniper lowers his aim. This was serendipitous luck at best. Most people will be reluctant to make any sounds as it draws the attention of the infected, but the point is that it's crucial to indicate that you're not a threat. The best chance you have is to either call them ahead of time if possible, or to use light to communicate with the other side. Turning the lights of phones on and off, making a flaming torch, or reflecting light using glass will get the attention of every soldier using a scope. Once we have their attention, they're going to come and rescue us, so all we need to do is stay put. Now that we've survived the train to Busan, we have to stay vigilant, as it won't be long till the virus makes its way to the peninsula, just in time for the sequel. With that being said, that's all for today, folks. Thanks to everyone who voted in last week's poll. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and click the notification icon to stay up to date on all my content. And if there's anything else you'd like to request, please don't hesitate to ask. As always, it's been a pleasure. Niyat here with Film Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.